If you're watching this video right now, you're in a place where you feel stuck. You're having such a hard time overcoming injuries and you haven't found a way that's actually going to help. You're probably angry with yourself, with the world, with God, wondering if you're going to lose all your progress, and you want to fix it without completely resting or losing all your progress. Now, there are two ways you can approach this injury. You can either be negative and lose all your progress, or try to find the positives and come back from it even stronger. Now in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to recover fast, fix what actually caused you to get hurt, and to come back even stronger both mentally and physically. And just so you know what I'm talking about, I've struggled with a fractured pelvis, torn hip flexor, torn adductor, torn lower ab, stress fractures in my lower back, a dislocated rib, dislocated shoulder. I've had so many injuries and no one was able to fix them. I went to so many physical therapists, so many doctors, and was in so much pain, and all I got was rest, painkillers, and I don't know, maybe massages or stretches, but none of it fixed it. I still had the issues and wasn't able to fix any of that. That led me to go down this rabbit hole of figuring out everything that could be wrong with my health, every single thing, and try to optimize all of it to bulletproof my body and prevent any sort of injuries or pain or inflammation in the future. So if you have any doubts, I know what I'm talking about. I've been through it myself and I was able to fix it and come out feeling the best I ever have in my entire life. So the first step is shifting your identity. This was something that was so hard for me at first because all I could see was the negatives. All I could see was that I was missing out on time on sports, losing all my progress in the gym, and I could only see the negatives. There didn't seem to be any positives. I had worked so hard to lose all my progress. But ultimately, I learned that the injuries are trying to teach you something. They're trying to tell you that something is wrong with your body, that you need to get fixed soon, or it could lead to even worse injuries later on in your life and even diseases that could potentially kill you. That's scary, but it's easy to fix. I'll go over that later in the video. It also taught me to slow down, take a step back, and check on what my identity was in. And I realized that my identity was purely rooted in how good I was at playing baseball and football and how strong I was in trying to be the biggest guy. It was all focused around my athleticism, and without it, I was nothing and I was completely crushed. So being injured forced me to take a step back from what my identity was rooted in and fix those issues and place my life back onto a firm foundation. Since I had all the extra free time, I began reading my Bible again, getting into Bible studies, just trying to do everything I could to rekindle my faith with God because I was depressed and desperate for a change because nothing else seemed to be working and I couldn't do what I truly loved. It's not easy. It sounds like a simple fix. It's gonna take a long time, but if you can truly find something to actually root your identity in that is gonna last and isn't affected by how you feel physically or mentally, that's going to change your entire life for the better. Okay, now let's get into the physical side and what you can do to actually fix your body physically. So most people never actually fix their injuries because they will rush back to performance too soon after resting and feeling better, but they haven't actually addressed the deeper issue that caused them to get hurt in the first place. So most people are treating the pain and not the actual cause for the pain. And then once they go back, even if they don't have pain, they go back to training the same way they were before. And ultimately that injury is telling you that there was something wrong with the way you were training when you got hurt. So this is exactly what you need to do to truly fix these issues. So step one is controlling what you can. Whenever you're injured in one spot, there are very few injuries I can think of that are going to completely prevent you from doing any sort of activity. There are so many ways to train around injuries that are going to keep you disciplined and staying consistent and still improving in some areas so that you don't lose all your progress. For example, when I was hurt in my lower body, I would focus more on upper body, but I didn't want my proportions to get off, so I was focusing on the accessory movements like my rotator cuffs and my shoulders, grip strength, even neck strength, stuff that's gonna prevent me from random injuries longer down the road, like falling over or car accidents, anything like that. So you ultimately don't lose progress from your injuries, you lose it from doing absolutely nothing at all and, becoming lazy because of the injury. Now, step two is fixing the root cause of the injury. When I went to PT for specifically my hip injuries, they would simply have me stretch my hips out and stretch those muscles that were tight and in pain rather than addressing the reason why they were inflamed. So I realized that my hip flexors were always tight because my adductors were consistently weak. So strengthening my adductors was able to balance out my hip flexors and allow them to relax a little bit so that they're not overcompensating. You can do some simple research with AI or reading a few articles to see, like, if I have this specific injury, why could it be? And then you can stabilize those other muscles that are causing that inflammation. Step 3 is upgrade your training. Now, for the longest time, I was doing a typical bro split in the gym or a push-pull leg split that was making me look great and making me stronger, but I wasn't feeling better. And this didn't make sense to me because I was strengthening muscles, but it wasn't preventing the injuries because those muscles were still getting torn or pulled. So what I realized is those focus on the big muscle groups, but they ignore the small muscles that are even more important to stabilize those big muscles. So I ultimately had to shift my identity from trying to become someone who is the strongest guy or the biggest guy or hits the ball the hardest in baseball, to being the guy that is fully functional across all boards. So I'm still working towards this, but now my goal is to be able to do the splits while above the 1,000-pound club and being able to run a sub 6-minute mile. Because all of that together trains my heart, my endurance, and then my flexibility and mobility, and also my strength and stability all at the same time. So what did I add into my routine to make this change? Well, I started watching the Knees Over Toes guy, Ben Patrick, and started implementing his ATG program. So he focuses mainly on strength through a full range of motion, joint focus training, and combining mobility and strength. So through this approach, I was able to fix the injuries while still growing stronger, not losing my progress. So this is using stuff like the ATG split squat, focusing a lot on backwards running or backwards treadmill movements for your knees, and stabilizing your shoulders. If you do some research, you can see some of the stuff he implements and see if you think any of it may help you. So I realized that in the long run, it's not healthy to become the strongest guy in the gym because you have to put your body under extreme stress to get there. But you can still be someone who turns heads with your strength or with your physique, while also being able to turn heads in other areas, maybe with calisthenics or mobility or your speed, by implementing a routine that focuses on all of those areas at once. Now, step 4, and this was the biggest shift for me in my entire life. From everything I did, this is the one thing that truly made it so much easier to overcome injuries and prevent injuries, and also boosted my mood and energy. And this was fixing my diet. So let me explain why this is such a big deal. Any food that is hard to digest in your gut is going to leak into your bloodstream. Because your gut has a hard time breaking it down, the wall of your gut is going to kind of break apart, have small little holes in it, which the toxins from the food it's having a hard time breaking down is going to get into your bloodstream. And that's not supposed to happen. So then your body freaks out and sends all the blood cells to fight that. And that's what causes the inflammation. And ultimately that inflammation will slow your recovery time, which builds up on top of itself to where your body eventually just gives out and breaks. So how can you figure out what foods are going to inflame you and what foods you can still have? Well, generally across the board for most people, it's going to be 3 simple things that are going to affect it. Now, that is typically gluten, dairy, and processed foods. So the way I figured this out for myself was I took a food sensitivity test at a lab that costed me about $200, I think, and I was able to see every single food that inflames my body and every food that doesn't, because this is going to vary from person to person. But I found for myself that gluten was the biggest one that I really had to cut out. And then the second one under that was certain forms of nuts and seeds, and also seed oils under that. So the way I fixed this was I went on the vertical diet, which is gluten-free, all whole foods that are easy to process, and absolutely no seed oils or anything like that. And after doing that for a long amount of time, like over a month, I noticed a significant decrease in my chronic inflammation. even when I was playing sports, I noticed that my lower back would be less inflamed after a full week of practice than when I was eating just a normal diet with gluten and processed foods. It really was like a night and day difference. And, I don't know if it's going to be exactly the same for you, but it's definitely something that is worth trying. There's no downside to it because ultimately you're going to be healthier by sticking to a whole food diet. But it was truly night and day for me and for my inflammation. Some other benefits I noticed is my face and body were a lot less bloated. And after about 3 weeks of sticking to that strict diet, I no longer had a craving for any sort of soda or desserts or anything like that. So if you do a strict week reset of like a detox of super low carbs, absolutely no processed food, no gluten, and supplement with a lot of probiotics, with some kombucha, and a lot of fermented foods and stuff like that, you're going to notice a significant decrease in that baseline inflammation. And then if you pair that with a month of sticking to a diet that does not have any of those inflammatory foods in it, you're really going to notice a huge difference overall in your health. All right, step 5, you can pair with step 4, but after you've figured that out, you can start adding in supplements that are going to lower your inflammation and support it and fight inflammation. Now, some quick and practical ones that really help is collagen plus vitamin C. It's going to boost your immunity and boost your collagen, which is going to benefit the healthy blood cells that fight inflammation and get rid of it from your body. Another very common one is omega-3 fish oil. Does a similar thing. Magnesium is also amazing for your muscle recovery. It's an electrolyte that most people don't get enough of in their diet and many people are short on and should supplement with. And then creatine as well. Now, most people say 5 milligrams of creatine. I take 10 to 20 plus grams a day for so many benefits it can have cognitively and for your muscles. And it just increases recovery, increases, your muscle saturation and water retention. It is really good, and it is the most studied supplement of all time. So if you're worried about it, go ahead and read a few articles and you'll see how great it is for you. Now, this won't fix you. This is not as important as fixing the diet and fixing the imbalances, but it will definitely speed things up and help lower that baseline inflammation after you've addressed the other imbalances. Now, step 6 is rehabbing the same way you train. Now, if you've been into the gym for a long time, I'm sure you know all about progressive overload, which is just adding small amount of reps or weight every single week so that you keep getting stronger and make sure you don't plateau. Now, it's the same with your rehab. A lot of physical therapists will give you these exercises and you're doing the same ones, the same amount every single week. And obviously that's better than nothing, but that's not great because you're not building up strength as you go. You're kind of just jumping and then staying here, but you want to be progressive overloading your physical therapy work as well. That way those muscles are slowly building up to catch up with all the other muscles that are already strong. Now, a lot of people think that rehab is separate from training, but I like to argue that rehab is the same as training, if not more important. So that helps you really reframe your injury from being something that is preventing you from doing what you want, that is taking away all your joy, to being something that is making you stronger and healthier. Number 7 is the mental edge. Once again, I'm going to address this again because it is so important. And ultimately, you want to completely get rid of your ego because your ego will re-injure you faster than anything else. If you want to show off and do a lift before your body's really ready to, then you could be going up and then all of a sudden you're worse than you were at the beginning of your rehab. For me, this was a big issue with sports because I would push myself to do more sooner than I was ready to kind of show off my skill in the sport, and it would prevent me from healing at the fastest pace possible. I really learned that discipline isn't pushing through injuries, but it's holding back when you don't want to. Discipline is the practice of doing what needs to be done even when you don't want to. And if that means doing less, that takes sometimes even more discipline than actually going to the gym or lifting. And number 8, something that's really gonna hit home for a lot of you, and that really hit for me, is the faith and purpose layer of training. So you might just have to accept that this is going to be the season where you're forced to build discipline rather than building muscle. And later on, that's going to help you so much more, because right now your goal might be to build muscle and you might have to take a step back, and that is going to suck. But in that process, you're going to be able to build a mindset that is going to push you so much farther in the future with your relationships, with your husband or wife or kids, with your job, just with everything. And you may not want now to be the time where you have to do that mental work, but you're gonna have to do it at some point, otherwise you're gonna be incomplete and unhappy. This sounds simpler than it actually is, but you really just have to focus on the positives and what you can do to continue to grow your mindset and become an overall well-rounded person, even though you can't focus on your body or your training the way you really want to. So this is your opportunity to build a body and a mind that doesn't break. Now, this video was really general, kind of all over the place. It gave you a lot of principles that you can act on, but there's a good chance that you're gonna feel stuck after watching it and not really know what to do after this. Now, if you really feel like this video resonated with you and want to take the next steps to building a bulletproof mind and body, you can schedule a call with me down below or DM me the word bulletproof on Instagram, and we can talk through the next steps to get you into the best shape of your life, both mentally and physically. This can include gaining weight and mass if that's what you want, while preventing injuries, or losing weight while staying healthy and keeping your energy up and not feeling miserable on a cut. Ultimately, I'll be able to work with you one-on-one to figure out your weak points and what needs to change to get you into the best shape of your life. This is more than just fitness coaching. This is turning you into the man that God has called you to be, so that you can be a strong husband, be a strong father, and be strong for your family. So go ahead and book that call below, and we can talk through the next steps in this journey. And thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for my next video that I'll be dropping soon on lust, which is another issue I'm sure so many of you struggle with. Thanks again for watching.